Here's why friends don't let friends vaccinate. Fear does not stop death. It stops life. And worrying does not take away tomorrow's troubles. It takes away today's peace. The COVID, quote unquote, vaccine is not a vaccine. They've said it will take multiple doses and even then require continuous reinjection. That's a drug, not a vaccine. Add to that, this is the first ever mRNA vaccine, which, contrary to the propaganda websites and news outlets out there debunking the real risks, has the potential to change our genetic makeup, perhaps even making a legal case that humans who have received the vaccine have now been genetically modified, almost like a GMO. Let that sink in for a moment. And then you take into consideration the fact that multiple countries are showing dozens of adverse effects. Hank Aaron, the Major League Baseball star, died just within a week of getting the COVID vaccine. And there are many more cases, far too many to even name here. This is part of the reason that many of us have decided to be the change that we want to see in the world. And we are forming a regenerative, community-sufficient tribe living in harmony with nature in Western North Carolina. Here's a little bit of the community guidelines and manifesto for those of you guys that may be interested. It's going to be off-grid power. So each home is going to have their own power, either through propane, solar, hydroelectric, wood stoves, or some combination thereof. There's going to be no Wi-Fi or wireless electricity, but we will have wired internet connections that are faster and healthier. Each parcel of land on the property, each home site is going to have spring water for drinking, bathing, and gardening. We have a regenerative philosophy that we're bringing. So if, for example, we need to cut down 5 trees to put in a road, we're going to plant 10. We believe that we are divine creators in the image of God, and that the laws of God belong above the laws of man. We're going to encourage gardening, growing some or all of your own food. Many people don't realize this, but a family of 4 can be fed on just a quarter acre. We're going to be connected to our local law enforcement, particularly the local sheriff. We're going to be attending meetings and lobbying for laws that uphold the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, our freedom, and the health and sustainability, I know that's a buzzword, of Mother Nature. We're going to focus on the good, the true, and the beautiful. Our currency is going to be trading of goods and services, possibly silver, possibly gold, but not relying on, paper money that's not backed by anything and certainly headed for a crash, or the cryptocurrency, which is part of, this sort of slavery system that they're kind of trying to usher the unsuspecting into. We believe our greatest assets are our community, our character, and our health. Family is wealth. No mask, no vax. There's going to be community homeschooling. It's critical that we teach our children as they are our future. So we're going to be big on practicing critical thinking, challenging convention, seeking wisdom, not information. There's going to be no usury, so no charging interest on any loaned money. And all of us are going to be looking to add value, leaving everyone in our community better than we found them. If you're interested in learning more about how you could possibly be a part of this community, you can go to biohackercoaching.com. I want to be forthright and respect your time. The minimum investment is a $25K donation that guarantees a quarter acre plot of land. $75K guarantees a full acre of land, and $195K guarantees 3 acres of land. And our community is a beautiful mix of entrepreneurs, healers, yogis, health professionals, families, and individuals who value freedom, connection, and living in harmony with Mother Earth. This sounds funny, but after 2020, you got to say it. All religions except for Satanism and Luciferianism are valued and welcome. So it doesn't matter if you're Muslim, Christian, Jewish, as long as God's at the top. That's all that matters. So yeah, you can learn more about that and grab a time for us to talk at biohackercoaching.com. Just please make sure that you're financially qualified. And if you would like to request, after you've filled out your application, if you'd like to request that it is moved to the front of the line, you can text community VIP to 847-989-3743.
This is your life, and it's ending 1 minute at a time.
I was blind, but now I see.
Working jobs we hate, so we can buy shit we don't need.
Ideas are worthless.
If you had one shot,
everything I'd ever read, heard, seen was now organized and available.
Now you fucking khakis.
Life moves pretty fast.
The Biohacking Secret Show.
Dr. John Lieurance, welcome back to the Biohacking Secrets Show.
Glad to be here, Anthony. Very glad to be here.
We're going to talk about fasting today and amplifying the effects of fasting. I was sharing with you offline, your NAD suppositories, the Nadmax. We use those with a number of clients. I use about 2 on weekdays myself for energy production, and just crossed the threshold into administering them to my father for his Parkinson's, and we're seeing huge benefits. So I'm pumped for your protocol here on fasting and some of the cool stuff you're working on. I was just reading over the article that you put together for Ben Greenfield. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your Mito fast protocol.
Sure. First of all, what are you doing here? Oxygen?
No, molecular hydrogen. So
Okay.
I've got a Halcyon molecular hydrogen machine. A lot of research on it for cognitive performance, especially if there's neurodegenerative disease. But I just run it when I'm podcasting and doing
Nice.
work, and get an hour or 2 of that in per day, along with a little bit of extra molecular hydrogen before a sauna.
Are you also doing red light therapy right now?
Yeah, I've got I've got an EMR Tech Firewave here for ambient lighting, keeping the blue low, and it's little Zen den down here for the podcasts. Yeah,
Great, that's great.
And when right before you went to get a shirt, I was going to say you looked like you just beat out Tom Hanks in season 7 of Survivor. Well, nice. I mean, a lot of our listeners are familiar with like intermittent fasting, following like a 16-8. We've discussed some of the research on how time restricted eating can be helpful for neurodegenerative disease, even just cutting off food for 12 hours. But your fasting protocol takes everything to a whole new level. Maybe you could give us a little bit of background on how you developed this, why you developed it, and what our listeners have in store for them today.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, what I'd like to do is kind of take people through, how this came to be and how some of these things were discovered. But, I've been diving into this material for a long time. I recently had a conversation with Dan Pompa, who's a close friend of mine, and he's been doing fasting for, decades. And so have I. We, chiropractors and naturopathic physicians, we've kind of the original biohackers, right? And so it's beautiful to see that now that this lifestyle is becoming accepted and kind of trendy. So it did not used to be. We used to be called granola tree huggers, but so, for the last couple of years, I've really been working very hard on different protocols in my clinic with my patients. And I also teach doctors. And so, I've been introducing some of these ideas just in the clinic and with my doctors that I work closely with. And it's been fairly, held close. We haven't really divulged a lot of this information, and we've just been seeing absolute amazing changes and results with a variety of different, health conditions, but also just for overall health and well-being. So we've decided, I was challenged by Ben to write an article, Ben Greenfield. And so I started writing this article, and it just turned into, basically putting all these things really into one place. And it's a basic protocol, but then there's some advanced options that I'd like to talk about as well. And so it really, whoever wants to look at this, there's a place for you. You're going to listen to this podcast, and I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. There's going to be a lot of content here, and there's a lot of opportunities for you to kind of jump in, but don't feel like you need to do all of it. And the other thing is, we do. I have a company called mitozen.com, and we make a number of products, and these products can be purchased for this protocol, but you can also get some of these products online, and you don't have to get them through me. And, one of the things that we do with our products is we make them into suppositories, liposomals, and we also have some nasal sprays. So some of the deliveries might be unique, but there's certainly opportunity to take a lot of this information and apply it at home in a very reasonable way. So let's kind of start at the beginning. That they were looking at soil in a little island called Easter Island, right? Rapa Nui Island. Mm-hmm. And they found this material, and they found that when they fed it to animals, that extended their lives, and it would mimic calorie restriction. And so they took a deeper dive into it, and they realized that there's a set of genes that mammals have that they're called mTOR. So they called it after this substance that they found in the soil. So it's called the mammalian target of rapamycin, or mTOR. So whenever you hear that term mTOR, just know that it's a substance that actually it's a gene expression, but it was originally a substance found in the soil on this island. So it's kind of
like a growth pathway, right? For
yes,
if it's activated, it can help with building muscle and hypertrophy, and if it's not activated, it can help with detoxification.
Cleaning and recycling, really.
Yeah.
So it's this feast famine that it ties in with, and so what they found is that the primary activators of mTOR are the protein intake, and so primarily leucine. And the primary inhibitors are fasting, but there's other inhibitors. We use ozone quite a bit. Ozone can be something that can accentuate mTOR. So we want to start looking at things that can support both of these sides of mTOR, either accentuating that activation of it, or inhibiting even more so than you might just with fasting. So what our goal is to get more autophagy and to clear up more senescent cells. But underneath, so autophagy, Greek for self-eating, it's where your body actually goes and it's able to find and locate cells that are dysfunctional and need to be recycled and cleaned up. And the way I think about it is this: in my city here in Sarasota, Florida, if there was some sort of way to go around and find all of the old cars that are hogging up too much gas and they're spewing up too much pollution, and I were to go find those cars, take them away and use the material in that car and make a brand new car that was really efficient, used less gas, obviously my city would need less energy and my city would produce less pollution. In your body, that energy is oxygen and glucose that's fed through the mitochondria. And the pollution is oxidation. So if we can be more efficient, then there's going to be a cleaner burning body, and you're going to have all of the different things that you want to have a more vital, robust life, less disease, living longer, all of these things. And so this is hardwired with mTOR, because when you inhibit mTOR, you're actually allowing your body to go out and find those cars and to start to recycle them. But the act of actually building those new cars is where mTOR needs to be activated, because that's the machinery that goes out and actually cranks out those new cars.
Solid example. Now, just to take it one step back, if there are any listeners listening that aren't that haven't integrated fasting into their weekly routine, why is that something that they want to do? And then we'll kind of talk about how to take fast to the next level in some of these pathways.
Well, one reason is it allows your body to be more metabolically flexible to use ketones. And so if we're constantly eating, especially carbs, if we're not doing like ketogenic diet, which most people aren't, then we're constantly feeding glucose into the system. And when we stop eating, our blood sugar can be very much dysregulated. So all the problems associated with insulin and sugars, the list is enormous. So that's one reason. And another reason is this autophagy. So we were designed to go through periods of starvation. And back, in the early years, can you imagine a warrior out there hunting on the plains? And were they hungry or were they full?
Hungry for sure. And they didn't have refrigerators. Right.
So the brain was designed to actually function more effectively in a fasting, in ketosis. Mm-hmm. And so for people that aren't dipping into that, which intermittent fasting or extended fasting will do, it can give you a lot of benefit. There's a huge benefit to the microbiome. It's a hormetic stress on the microbiome. You start to actually clear out a lot of the dysfunctional bacteria in your gut, and only the strong, more effective strains will remain. And then we have an activation component that's in the advanced post-fast, where we stimulate microbiome swarming, which we'll talk about in a little bit. But so after the fast, you can get this nice rejuvenation to your microbiome. And then senescent cells, people, you want to, they're like zombie cells. And so we accumulate these as we get older, and they create a lot of oxidation. They hog up energy. They're like those cars, and they really accumulate as we get older if we have diseases or chronic stress. And so cleaning out these senescent cells is really important. There's detoxification pathways that are activated where your liver can cleanse, your gut can cleanse, your digestive tract. One of the things I tell my patients is, you can't clean the highway if there's traffic on it. So, really, there's really a lot of reasons that one would want to fast. Oh, the brain, right? So you create protein tangles in the brain, especially if you're playing a lot of sports. When we fast, one of the things that happens with autophagy is it cleans up a lot of these protein tangles, amyloid beta, tau, alpha synuclein. A lot of these proteins can actually be cleaned out.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And do you have a preferred way of fasting? Are you an intermittent fasting guy? Do you do like a 24-hour, a 36-hour fast once a week? And what do you typically recommend? Is this something based on health status of the individual? Because I know that like too much stress for some people can actually tip the scales and become a problem, based on what else they got going on in their life, emotionally, physically, underlying health issues, et cetera.
Well, Anthony, it sounds like we're about ready to get into the meat and potatoes of this.
Let's do it. Let's roll up our sleeves and get dirty.
All right. So,
and I want to mention too, mitozen.com, guys, is where you can get the products that we're going to talk about. I'm a huge fan of the Nadmax. I use the Glutastat. I use the Sandman. I want to talk to you about the Sandman a little bit too later on, if it's relevant. But everything that we're talking about today, you can go to mitozen, mitozen.com. You can enter discount code biohacks, and that will save you some dough. All right, please continue, sir.
Yeah. So it Mito Fast, and like you had mentioned, there's an article on Ben Greenfield's website that I wrote for him, and if you want to dive into it a little bit more. You can also go to ultimatecellularreset.com, and you can find the article there. So it's a 3-phase protocol. So you have the pre-fast, which is phase 1. You have the during the fast, which is phase 2. And then you've got the post-fast, which is phase 3. So the first phase is where we load up with NAD. Mm-hmm. And the reason that we want to load up with NAD is we want to prime the cells and energize them getting them ready to go into this stressful state of a fast.
Mm-hmm.
We do not want to take NAD all the time. One of the things that I'm a bit frustrated about is a lot of companies selling NAD precursors and NAD, and they're having people just take it every day. One of the downfalls of NAD is it supports all your cells, but it also supports your senescent cells. So
It can increase cancer risk as well, right? If you have cancer and don't know it.
I'm not familiar with that part of it, but I would suspect that may have more to do with not pulsing it. And
Yeah, exactly. Just taking it chronically all the time.
So you want to pulse NAD. You don't want to take it every day. So we recommend people so each phase either goes for 2 days or it goes for 3 days, but you can also go for 5 days. Like for instance, I just finished a 5-day fast and I'm on the first day of my phase 3. So I'm working on stem cells right now, and we'll get to that. But so the first phase, you're taking a product called Nadmax, and Nadmax has NAD, it has NR, which is one of the precursors to NAD, and another precursor is called NMN, and that's nicotinamide riboside and nicotinamide mononucleotide. But this Nadmax also has a polyphenol called fisetin, which is in really high amounts with the second phase. If you look at the research on fisetin, it's unbelievable at how good this is at clearing up senescent cells and triggering autophagy. A lot of these really dense polyphenols like curcumin and resveratrol and green tea extract and,
Quercetin.
Lutein, quercetin, these are all in the Lucitol, but we put the fisetin in with the Nadmax so that we're kind of trying to suppress the senescent support with that product. And so we have an NAD loading, and then when we go into our fast, there's 2 options for you. You can either do a 3-day water fast or a 1-day or a 2-day, whatever you're comfortable with. And some people may be able to tolerate something longer. Some people may want to do something shorter. So what we recommend on a kind of an easy way to dip into this is just a 24-hour lunch to lunch fast. So you do 2 days of loading NAD. The next 2 days, you do a 24 to 36 hour water fast, right? So you're basically just intermittent fasting. Most people, pretty much everybody can do that. So you do that within the next 2 days. And then the following 2 days, you want to up your protein intake. Now, we like Perfect Aminos. Ben Greenfield sells a product called Kion Aminos. It's really the same, very similar product. They're essential amino acids, not branched chain amino acids. And, there's some great podcasts out there really getting into the science on why that is so much more absorbable into the cells and tissues and et cetera, et cetera. So we want to really crank up mTOR. And the way that we'll do that is we have a product called StemTOR, and StemTOR has a high amount of leucine, and it has HMB, and it's got rhodiola. And so, and deer antler. So it's got a lot of these nutrients that are going to really hyper accentuate mTOR. So you increase your dietary protein, you supplement your diet with the essential amino acids, and then you can take this StemTOR product. So you're really going to get a stronger release of stem cells and stimulate growth of the body. Now, just imagine that your body goes through this activation of mTOR, and it's sending all these stem cells out into your body. What happens is naturally a number of those stem cells are going to go senescent. Now, this is a problem that we face. We've been doing regenerative orthopedics for a long time. We were one of the first adopters of taking bone marrow and fat and placental stem cells and using, high level ultrasound guidance, rotator cuff, all those things. And so we know that when we inject somebody's bone marrow into a knee, there's going to be a percentage of them that are going to survive. So whatever we can do, if we add peptides to it, if we have people healthier, whatever the case may be, that knee is either a more favorable environment for those stem cells, or it's going to be more stressful. And so the difference between the two is how many of those stem cells are going to make it. right? Like sperm, right? Only some of them are going to make it to the egg. And it's the same thing.
You only need one.
You only need one.
You only need one strong swimmer. I'm kidding.
So what I found is that there's two substances that I was really impressed with that improved mesenchymal stem cell survival. And so we use this product. It's called StemZen. I haven't even talked to you about this.
Yeah, I haven't tried that.
And so StemZen is a high CoQ10, and it's got something called fucoidan. And fucoidan is an extract of brown seaweed. And it's also got some curcumin and some quercetin in there as well. But this we use as an upgrade for people in the phase 3, or we use this for people after they've had regenerative medicine if they want to get a better result.
Okay, so you're loading with NAD for a couple of days. What do you typically recommend? Like when I take your NAD max, I'm usually taking 2 suppositories on days I got a lot of work to do. Yeah.
That's often what I'll do as well.
Okay.
So my typical recommendation would be to take 2 in a day. And so you can take, one in the morning after your first bowel movement, or you can take one or then before you go to sleep, after dinner or something like that. But we also have all of these products in liposomals. So they're oral forms of these. So, I think it's a good time for us to maybe kind of talk about why one would want to take a suppository, because a lot of people may not even heard, it's rectal administration, right?
Yeah.
So you're using like a bullet shaped, and it's basically the substance is embedded in palm oil. Sometimes they make suppositories with other things, but like cocoa butter is something people make them with, but ours is an organic palm oil. And so as it dissolves with the heat in your rectum, it slowly releases these substances in your body. And the way I would explain that is there's something called peak plasma. So when you take, like, say, an oral CoQ10, and then I were to take and check your blood to see what level of CoQ10 you have in your blood over time, there's going to be a graph, and it's going to go up, and it's going to have a peak plasma. And how long that peak plasma stays up there is going to depend on that substance and the delivery method. And so if it's an oral delivery method, it's going to have a challenge because you're going to have a short peak plasma. Whereas when you do a suppository, you're going to have a long it's going to be hours. And so imagine if I was to soak beans, like we've all soaked beans, right? We've got to let it soak overnight before the bean fills with the moisture. If we just were to throw beans in water, black beans, and we come back a couple minutes later, there's nothing that's really happened. Well, imagine your cells, and the extracellular fluid has a little bit of CoQ10 flowing around it, and it has just a little window to try to pull it into the cell.
Right.
Because it has hours to pull it in the cell. So the absorption is much, much higher. Now, the liposomals, you're going to have a much higher absorption than typical oral administration. But the other challenge with oral is you have first pass through the liver. You also have digestion enzymes with your stomach and your small intestines that can help break down these things, which interfere with the ultimate absorption.
And then I would imagine, digestive issues are so common these days, whether it's hypochlorhydria or just dysbiosis, I would have to imagine in those individuals, they're going to get a better response from a suppository than something taken orally. No?
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We see a lot of patients that are sick, and that's primarily what I deal with in the clinic. Like, we specialize with Lyme disease and mold illness. See a lot of, because that's my own story. I think we covered that in your last podcast.
Yeah. And your NAD suppositories, the NAD Max, helped me a ton when I got Lyme again in October up at our lake house. And finally, I had to see how much they could help my dad. And we were all a little gun shy about getting in there, but little rubber glove, and you're good to go. And I'm glad we did. I'm glad we did, because for a variety of reasons that you've mentioned and we've discussed, that delivery method it's making a big difference. He's getting stronger and moving better, and his brain's sharper. And we were then able to start doing some heavy metal detox. And I think like whenever the body's compromised, it's like a critical phase that we're discussing here, this NAD loading. You know, we see people with like Lyme or whatever, and a doctor will put them on either herbals or antibiotics. And like, if they're deficient in B vitamins and NAD and stuff, it can wreck them. Yeah. You know, and a lot of times it's like, you got to kind of feed the cells and the mitochondria and get some of these deficiencies addressed so that people aren't getting their butt handed to them from some of these protocols.
Well, you know, the reason that I call it Mito phase is because it was really designed to be focused around the mitochondria. And we talked about autophagy, and we talked about fasting and how it clears up senescent cells. But one really important thing that I think the listeners need to know is that there's a mechanism within that is specifically for mitochondria. They call that mitophagy. And then, of course, on the flip side of that is mitochondrial biogenesis. Mm-hmm. And so you're going to get a lot of that because there's something called PGA1 alpha. That's another gene pathway that's really activated with the fasting. But another thing that, you know, I'd mentioned this with ozone. This, as far as I know, is the most powerful activator of PGA1 alpha, which is ozone for mitophagy and mitochondrial biogenesis. And the way I see it is, you know, your mitochondria they're an engine, and that engine needs to quench oxidation because it's just, you know, it's working, and this oxidative stress is coming out of that mitochondria. If it doesn't have anything to neutralize it, then it'll burn up and it can cause a lot of havoc. And so, you know, a couple of things tie into this. One is that you have a turnover of mitochondria, constant turnover. 1/3 of your body weight is mitochondria. And so it's shocking. And so we're constantly renewing them. So if we're in a disease state as we get older, our overall health and functionality of our mitochondria decline because we're not efficiently cleaning these. Just like the cars, you know, let's forget about the cars being a cell. Let's call those cars each mitochondria. It's the same conversation. So we want to be able to notice that these mitochondria need to be cleared out. And so the primary activator of that is oxidation. There's nothing stronger than ozone. So you're talking about 3 oxygen molecules bound together. It enters the body, and then it's just like, you know, the body just says, it's like a fire. It's like all of a sudden it's seeing smoke, and it's like, where's that coming from? We have to figure out what all this extra oxidation is coming from, but it's dose dependent. So it's just enough of a stimuli so the body wakes up. And so your natural antioxidant faculties wake up and start to kick in. And then on the flip side of that, you get this big upregulation of mitochondrial biogenesis. So point being, if you can get a home ozone machine, and we carry one, you get a whole setup for less than $1,000 where you can ozonate water, but the rectal delivery is, so we're talking a lot about a rectal stuff, suppositories, rectal ozone. Guys, you might just have to go there. I'm sorry.
The title of this episode's butt stuff.
Yeah. You know, let's get to the bottom of it, right?
Just works better.
Yeah, it does. And, you know, so you're going to get a nice absorption into your bloodstream with rectal. So there's basically a bag, and the bag fills up. You clip it onto the machine. It fills up a bag, and then there's a catheter that you screw on, and you place the catheter up, you know, up into your butt, and then you squeeze the bag, and it fills up. Have you used this before?
Yeah. I've had an ozone generator for a few years, and even like, I mean, I was just thinking back to like 2016 or 2017. My brother came to visit me in Florida, and he was dealing with like some parasites, and I'm like, we'll nip it in the butt while you're down here. And it was like 5 or 6 days into rectal ozone, followed by sauna, and then some herbals, you know, clove, wormwood, black walnut, all the Hulda Clark stuff. And on like day 5 or 6, he just started dumping parasites, and
Wow.
it went on for weeks. Like
Mhm.
weeks. And I think the rectal ozone, especially followed by a sauna, was a big tipping point there. So just wanted to mention that for people that may have some parasite issues going on.
You know, one thing I did yesterday too. So I did the fast, but I went and had a colonic, you know, and
Yeah.
that can be really powerful. And what was really surprising to me was how much stuff came out. You know, I was telling the colon hydrotherapist, I'm like, you know, what the heck's going on? And, you know, it was basically my body was just getting rid of this old cellular material.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wasn't food. It was just detoxing stuff from your body.
Yeah. And a lot of that mucus and things can just interfere with absorption. You know, we can build it up over years and decades, and like cutting yourself off from food and you know, creating an environment where you can flush that stuff out with colonics and rectal ozone, and, you know, maybe even coffee enemas if you want to get the liver involved.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's how we stimulate regeneration and stay young and beautiful.
Yeah. So, you know, these are all really good applications. And again, you know, it's like how much you want to get involved with it. You know, if you're really kind of on the extreme side, like you and I, you know, I'm not afraid to add all these things in. I mean, I feel today in particular, I feel so clear. I mean, really, it's just like, I mean, amazing. Right.
Yeah.
And you don't always feel amazing going through the fast, but there's moments where you feel really clear and good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's really worth it. If you haven't done any of this type of work, I think it's worth the sacrifice and of, you know, skipping meals. You know, that's the thing that a lot of people are afraid of, is like,
right.
I can't eat.
This episode is also brought to you by Optimizers and the Biohacking Secrets Upgraded Digestion Package. So if any of you guys are dealing with suboptimal digestion, characterized by gas, bloating, your stomach feeling distended or like it's sticking out after certain meals, if you get sluggish, if you deal with constipation or diarrhea, you're going to want to pay attention, because it usually comes down to one of three things being off. The first is low stomach acid production. The second is low enzyme production. And the third is gut dysbiosis, meaning you have too many of the quote unquote bad bugs in your gut and not enough of the good ones. And the Optimizers Biohacking Secrets Upgraded Digestion Package addresses all of these root causes of suboptimal digestion. It's the best value you could possibly get if you are looking to take 30 days and turn your digestion completely around. And you can get that for just $177. It's usually $270 by going to buyoptimizers.com/biohacks. That's BIOPTIMIZERS.com/BIOHACKS to check out the exclusive Biohacking Secrets Upgraded Digestion Package for just $177 today.
Most people are trying to change their body in some regard, usually getting rid of a little bit of extra weight, like cutting off food for 24 to 36 hours or a little bit longer isn't going to kill any of us. All right. So we've loaded up on NAD, and then let's talk about your fast a little bit. Like you're saying, you know, start out with a 24-hour or 36-hour fast, just water only. What's your stance on, let's say, like black coffee, espresso? Do you do any of the C8, the pure caprylic acid, MCT oil, any exogenous ketones, or are you like just water, stay away from everything else?
Well, it all comes down to signaling. So how strong do you want to signal autophagy? And the ultimate is just straight water, right? I mean, they've shown that coffee doesn't really have a big impact. You know, green tea. I stay working. Sometimes I'll just have like 2 or 3 or 4 macadamia nuts just to kind of get me through, because I couldn't take time off work. So, you know, what Walter Longo really showed that if you stay below, 700 calories a day, you're still getting a fair amount of autophagy, but it really comes down to signaling. So you have to make the decision for yourself, what you're comfortable with. If you're in a situation where you're really struggling and you just need something, because you're having to work or have physical activity, don't beat yourself up if you have to have a little something, some MCT oil or whatnot. One of the tricks that people can use is they can grind up some chia seed or some flax seed and maybe take a tablespoon of one of those in a big glass of water and drink that down. That can really kind of help satiate with very limited calories. Yeah.
And what's the name of are you taking a product during the autophagy phase, during the actual fast?
The phase 2. Yeah. So that's called Lucitol. And that's that has the high fisetin,
right,
lutein, quercetin, curcumin, resveratrol. And so that's what's called a senolytic. So these are all class of polyphenols that are considered senolytic. So lytic meaning it clears it out. And senescent, obviously senescent cells, we've covered what those are. So that phase is really geared towards really breaking down and clearing out stuff that's dysfunctional, whether it's mitochondria, whether it's dysfunctional cells. And then when you get into the phase 3, again, you're gonna hit the protein. We kind of already covered that. One of the things that we didn't cover though, is we didn't cover how to actually really ramp up the swarming effect from the microbiome. So there's a signaling molecule that's the primary signaling to your microbiome for it to go into a growth phase in your gut. Can you guess what that is?
You know, I was going to say zonulin, but I don't think so.
Melatonin.
Ah, what do you know? Nice. I like it.
So gut melatonin is 400 times higher than brain melatonin. So your gut produces melatonin for your microbiome. Mm-hmm. And it also produces melatonin to protect itself from oxidative stress because, you know, there's a lot of oxidative stress happening right there in that gut. You're breaking down food, you're absorbing food. And so they found just all these benefits to I'm writing a book right now, by the way, and the chapter on the gut melatonin is it's one of the longest ones, but Crohn's disease and, you know, gastritis and just all these gut issues just clear up with these higher doses of melatonin. So,
and what are we talking when you say higher dose? Because like I took one of your Sandman suppositories last night, 200 milligrams of melatonin.
Yeah.
And what are you seeing in the scientific literature?
Well,
what constitutes high dose? Are we talking 20 milligrams or are we going up?
They're going 40, 60, 100, 200, you know. Mm-hmm. So you want to go with much higher levels because this isn't for sleep. So we're looking to really put a lot of melatonin into the system to help with the body to deal with stress. So each cell in your body, in fact, every mitochondria makes its own melatonin to buffer from stress. So this is one of the reasons that chronic infections are helped with high dose melatonin. In fact, they're using it at a lot of hospitals for COVID. Mm-hmm. They've done studies with melatonin with Ebola, right? I mean, it's maybe more dangerous than coronavirus. And mm-hmm. they found the survival rate was like massively higher with the animals that they put on melatonin versus not. Mm-hmm. So it quenches that cytokine storm everybody's hearing about, whether it's coronavirus or any other infection.
Mm-hmm. The main hangup that I hear from people is their fear that because melatonin's a hormone, you know, they don't want a negative feedback loop or down regulation of their own endogenous production. Can you speak on that a little bit with high dose melatonin?
So what's really great about melatonin is it does not have that feedback loop. So if you take massive amounts for long periods of time and then stop taking it, you're still going to produce all the melatonin that you normally produce. And if you look at a graph, once you hit 40, your melatonin levels are just like way down here. And, you know, that actually might account for a lot of the negative aspects that start to creep up as we get older. And you know, Google that. Go on to Google Images and Google melatonin age graph, you know, and I'm sure there's going to be a few graphs that pop up and you're just going to be shocked. Mm-hmm. So do you want to bring your melatonin levels back up to a more youthful level to get all the benefits that melatonin can provide you, you know, mm-hmm. or do you want to just, you know, accept this, you know, this heading down the north end of the mountain, you know, with mm-hmm. your skis flying all over the place, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's important to mention that I'm of the belief that, along with toxicities, heavy metals, pesticides, chemicals, glyphosate, chronic infections, radiation has a number of effects, but because it's so hard to track and test, you know what I mean? We have to kind of look at these secondary and tertiary biological effects. Mercola talks in his book EMF'd about the degradation of NAD, and we know that high amounts of radiation and electricity suppress melatonin production.
Absolutely.
And I've not experienced one health issue that has not responded favorably to NAD, specifically your suppositories. And if people are having trouble sleeping and recovering, working in the Sandman into their routine. I'm really excited to try some of these other products for autophagy and mitophagy, like the Stem Zen and some of the other ones that we mentioned.
For Stem Zen,
yeah. Let's talk about some other like kind of extreme hacks that you like to implement. Like, you're saying 24 to 36 hours on a fast. What you've worked up to, you're now doing 5 days for your fasts of water only, no caffeine.
Yeah. Water.
Gangster.
Yeah. I had an amazing friend that was staying with me. His name's Michael Rice. He actually would be a good guest for you. He teaches a lot of spiritual practices, right? And he came down and we did a workshop together, and he stayed with me. It was really just such a beautiful experience for me to really take a deep dive into some of his work. And so we both decided to do a fast together. And I'm like, hey, let's do Mito fast. And so, it works a lot better when you have, a partner in crime with this.
Yeah, for sure.
Somebody's holding you responsible,
Mm-hmm. You start getting those voices in your head like, it's all right. It's been 24 hours. Just eat a little food, Yeah. All right. Beautiful. Well, what else do you want to share with the people? I'm excited to dive into this protocol, and guys, if you want to check it out, or if you want to check out our previous episode with Dr. John, that's episode 169 of the Biohacking Secret Show. And if you want to get on some of the NAD and other products, that the Stem Zen and things that we mentioned, you go to mitozen.com, enter discount code biohacks. Our old discount code was The Secret. So if for any reason Biohacks is down, just enter The Secret and you'll still save your dough. But what else you want to share with the people, like that you're seeing work in the clinic, or that you're excited about?
Well, I think one of the if people are struggling with some health issues, there's sinuses, I think, are overlooked by a lot of people. Mm. And, there's a product we make called Glutastat, which is, I think you've tried that before as well.
Yeah. Strong stuff. I like it.
It's a strong antimicrobial nasal spray. Mm-hmm. And so we have a 30-day sinus protocol that we use, and we have a lot of our doctors use with their patients. And, I think that that is something everybody should do, some sort of sinus hygiene, mm-hmm. An intensive for a period of time. And then every morning, I'll tell you my ritual for my sinuses. All right?
Yeah. All right.
So I wake up in the morning, and this is an Ayurvedic trick, is I get a bowl and I take iodine, Lugo's iodine, and I drop it in the bowl and a little bit of sea salt, Himalayan sea salt. And I put that bowl and I fill it with filtered water, and I stick my face in there. I open my eyes and I inhale through my nose. Now, for those that might be thinking that's impossible, actually you can. And as soon as that water starts to kind of go into the throat, you pull your face out and you let all the water drain out of your nose. Then what I do is I have an irrigator. It's like a pump. It's like a neti pot, right? So then I use a neti pot, and then I spray the Glutastat in each nostril. And, talk about just cleaning you out. It's wonderful.
So that's got intranasal glutathione, and then you've also got some botanicals in there that are like natural antimicrobials to kill some of the is it Marcons or Panda or some of these microbes that can be problematic and cause inflammation of the nasal or mucosal membrane?
Yeah, Marcons is really common. Something that originally was really linked to people with immune dysfunction. But I'm finding it in a large population of my patients. We test for it pretty regularly, and it's very difficult to get rid of. And we've been able to document, eradicating this infection. And the glutastat's all natural. So we've got oregano, sage, clove leaf, bay leaf, and there's some terpenes, some antimicrobial terpenes in there. And it does burn, but just for a short period of time. And, it's kind of like wasabi is, like when you're at the sushi restaurant, and you're like, hey, man, watch this. And, you have a big chunk of wasabi and it's like, wow. But you kind of feel a little good after that.
I like it.
Yeah. So it's kind of like that, where you get this burn, but it's very short lived. And some people actually kind of enjoy it.
Burn so good. John Mellencamp. Yeah. Sleep. All right. So I got a question for you. And I know there's so many people that are dealing with sleep issues in this past year, and your Sandman can be really helpful, especially because it seems like melatonin is very hit or miss. It's challenging for some people to find the right dose. And my question is this. Okay. For someone listening who's been dealing with sleep issues, is it just pick up some Sandman, give them a try? What are some of the other changes that you make or changes that you recommend in your clinic for someone who's not been sleeping well and they know it's affecting their cognitive performance and their physical performance and their recovery, et cetera?
Well, I would say, eat early, avoid blue and green light, which means, I like the fact that there's a lot of red light that I'm seeing at your house. We got lizard lamps all over the place. Right. So this is what I figured out. You can go on to Amazon and you can buy those automatic remote control plug outlets, and it has a little keypad, right? Where you can get like 5 on one little keypad, and there's an on off button on either side. So I got these little lamps and I put red lights in those lamps, and I put those lamps around my house. So at night, I don't turn these lights on. I never use it at night. I have these pads, and I've got one right next to my bed. So I'm in bed, and I've got my blue blocking glasses if I put the TV on. And, you just reach over and you turn these red lights off when you're ready to go to bed. But yeah, it's like a submarine over here. And
that's huge. Yeah, here too.
Yeah, right. It's really something I think everybody should pay attention to.
And once you experience what it feels like to your eyes and nervous system to have, some of these red lights, there's sunlights, there's zoo lights, you can find them on Amazon, and it's almost abrasive to go back to the other ones. I've walked into Airbnbs that just feel like a department store, and it's okay. So that's huge, changing your light environment. And then do you have people that are doing Sandman every night, or is it something like that you recommend cycling every other night? What's your dosage recommendation for that?
So, for those that want to do the Mito fast and accentuate that microbiome swarming, so, you're going to go through that hormetic stress response to the microbiome. And then after your fast, you want to feast and really get the microbiome to come back strong and powerful. You can do the Sandman for 3 days, 4 days, a week afterwards. For some people, there might be a reason to take it chronically, for a long period of time. And we have people that are taking, we have a Sandman and we have Super Sandman. Oh. Sandman has 200 milligrams. Super Sandman has 425 milligrams.
In one suppository?
Mm-hmm.
I got to try that.
Well, I'll
see you in March.
Actually, Dr. Pompa, Dan Pompa and I, we've been playing around with both. We started with ourselves because we're like, I wonder if we took, 400, 500, 600, we're literally taking like 800 and 900 milligrams. And at first it was like, you're freight trained. It's like, you couldn't even open your eyes if you wanted to. Yeah. But I can function pretty well on that high of a dose now. And I don't wake up as groggy. So your body does get used to it. And I can stop taking melatonin completely for a week. And
me too.
I don't feel any negative effects.
Yeah.
I think that there's a lot of misunderstanding of melatonin. And I have some of my patients, some of my chronic patients walking up to taking 400 and 500 milligrams. And we have the super Sandman and the liposomal, both the Sandman and super Sandman. So 10 milliliters of that super Sandman is, 450 milligrams of melatonin.
Yeah. I've noticed something very interesting. Like I can take, 0.3 milligrams of melatonin, or like sometimes I'll go up to 4 or even 8 with like a liposomal. And, I expected that like taking 200, I was going to be Rip Van Winkle and just unconscious for a month. And in fact, it was like, I have some good nights where I'm out for 9 hours and I wake up feeling great. But like today I woke up at and this has happened to me a couple times too. I woke up like ready to go at 3:30. No chance I'm going back to bed. I had a script that I needed to work on for this video we're doing. And I just got started with my day, banged the whole thing out. It's like 7 a.m. and I have nothing left to do. Right. And I don't mind it. You know what I mean? Yeah. I took a 20-minute power nap and I feel great now. But I have noticed that even it's like the opposite happens sometimes, where it's almost like half a night's sleep and I'm good to go.
Yeah, I had a similar experience. I took, I think I took 800. I took a Super Sandman suppository and I took 10 mils of the Super Sandman liposomal. Mm-hmm. I've got to send you some because you got to try this.
I'd love to try one.
But, I'm obviously really trying to push that microbiome. But I woke up, I went to sleep at 9:15, 9:30, and I woke up at 4:30 just feeling just fantastic.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it's great. All right. So let's recap. Mitozen.com is where you guys can pick up all of this good stuff, discount code biohacks and The Secret. Dr. John, can you run just through like a sample real quick, like NAD load, 2 suppositories for 2 days, then at least 24 to 36 hour fast, water only, but you can go up to 5 days. And during that, you're taking what dosage of what? And then we'll kind of talk about the stem cells just so people can pick up the right stuff.
Okay. So there's 2 options. You can do 2 days, 2 days, and 2 days with each phase, or you can do 3 days, 3 days, 3 days. So what we're having people do as far as like a fairly aggressive 3-month protocol is every single week, they're going to do 2 days where they're going to take NAD twice a day. Mm-hmm. And then after that, they're going to roll into their fast and they're going to take Lucitol twice a day. And they're going to fast for either 24 or 36 hours during those 2 days. After that, they're going to roll into phase 3, where they're going to take Stemtor twice a day for 2 days. And then the options are they can take the melatonin, the Sandman. They could take the StemZen. All of them are obviously the Sandman is going to be at night before bed, but the StemZen's again 2 times a day. And then there's another optional product that we have, and it's listed in the article as well. It's called ProBiomax, another new product. And it's a spore-based probiotic with butyrate in a suppository.
Whoa.
That also really kind of supports that microbiome in the phase 3.
That's interesting too. Well, awesome, man. I love having you on. I appreciate our chats. One of my favorite doctors. And yeah, guys, if you got value from this, highly recommend all of Dr. John's products. You'll have a blast on mitozen.com, and we got those discount codes to save you some money.
Yeah. Just to wrap up. So if they do that 2 day every once a week, we'll have them do the 3 day, 1 week a month, right? Would they do the full 3 day water fast and do that for 3 months? And that really mimics the whole Valter Longo protocol, where really dipping into those longer fasts consecutively, month, the next month. If you think that you're going to go out and do one fast and like change your life, you might feel better. But what they're finding with the research, if you really do a longer fast once a month for 3 months, you're like reversing, diabetes, mm-hmm. showing some just amazing results. So 24-hour fast every week. Mm-hmm. 3 day water fast, one week a month. Do that for 3 months.
And schedule it. Schedule it, guys. Put it in your calendar so that you remember, lunch to lunch every week, you're going to do a full 24-hour fast. And like, my first fast, I remember 12, 14 hours I was struggling, and now like 24 hours, 36 hours, I've done 5 days. I'm not going to pretend 5 days was easy, but I've done it. And, yeah, you just build, but you got to schedule it, put this stuff in if you haven't already, and see where you're at in 3 months, especially with the help of these products to kind of supercharge your results.
Yeah. This guy, Michael Rice, that was staying with me, told me he did a water fast for 40 days.
Whoa, that's some biblical fasting.
That is. Yeah. Crazy.
Well, nice. I'd love to chat with him. And thank you for coming on again. I enjoy our conversations and you sharing your knowledge and wisdom and time and everything, and keep making awesome products. I love them. I'm no longer making any suppositories. I just get yours. Nice.
Anthony, Thank you so much for having me. It's been my pleasure.
Thanks, brother. Mito Zen, guys, discount code biohacks or The Secret. And yeah, if you want to check out Dr. John's other episode, it's number 169. Thank you so much. Have a blessed day. What's up, guys? Anthony here, and thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Biohacking Secrets Show. One of my favorite things to do is helping men and women like you feel what it's like with the body you've always wanted and all-day energy that starts the moment you wake up and doesn't quit. Over the past decade, we've created a proprietary health assessment that helps me to identify the unique toxicities and deficiencies that may be holding you back from the life that you deserve. And what we've discovered in doing this with now thousands of CEOs, executives, professional athletes, businessmen, Hollywood celebrities, and entrepreneurs is that there's always room for improvement and optimization. Whether you're already performing at a high level or you have that feeling inside your heart that you're capable of more, the single fastest way to unlock your potential is to upgrade your mind and your body. And there's no program on earth that does that faster or to a greater magnitude than our one-on-one consulting program at www.biohackingsecrets.com/coaching. We start with our proprietary health assessment that screens you for vitamin deficiencies like A, D, magnesium, iron, etc., high cholesterol and heart disease, high blood pressure, digestive disorders, hidden infections like Lyme, Epstein-Barr, parasites, SIBO, Candida, and more that can just drain your energy in the background, especially if you don't know about them. Anxiety, depression, and cognitive disorders, autoimmune disease, adrenal fatigue, thyroid issues, mold toxicity, heavy metals, environmental toxins, and other genetic risk factors like MTHFR, APOE status, your glutathione production, and many more. We even recommend the specific tests that I use with my one-on-one clients if they're relevant for you in figuring out your biological age and identifying those key areas and opportunities that can take your life to the next level. From there, we create a customized game plan along with a personalized supplement protocol to help you optimize your weight and energy at the cellular level. And for our platinum clients, we even include a personalized workshop with me in Delray Beach, Florida. Most of the year, this program's full with a waiting list, but we just had a couple spots open up and I wanted to offer them to the listeners of the Biohacking Secrets Show first. So if you're interested in seeing what it might look like for us to work together, head over to www.biohackingsecrets.com/coaching. That's www.biohackingsecrets.com/COACHING and fill out the short application form. If you're pre-approved, you'll be given the opportunity to book a time to connect with someone on our team and see if it's a fit. Thank you so much for being a part of this community, and I look forward to potentially going on this journey together.